What I eat in a day to stay lean, build muscle, and perform at my best at the age of 37. I've already shared the 10 foods I eat in a day. So, as usual, no fluff. I'm going to share real structure. I'm not only going to share what I eat, I'm going to share supplements, what my day looks like day to day in terms of what I put into my body. Like I say, to not just look good, right? Yes, I stay lean all year round. I'm in the shape of my life. It's also to feel good, to have sustained energy, to perform at my best, right? So this is exactly what I do. Let's start off with my morning routine. Now, first thing I do, a lot of people say they get up at 5 a.m. I get up, I journal for an hour, I breathe for, 2 hours. What's that, like a 5-hour morning routine? I don't do that shit. What I do is I get up around about 6:30 a.m. I have a pee, and then I drink 1 liter of water, literally within the first kind of 10 minutes of waking. Why? Because you wake up dehydrated, right? Now, a lot of people, they reach for caffeine straight away. Hydrate first, the best thing you can do in the morning, right? And ideally add some sodium or add some electrolytes to that water. Because what I do after I've had that 1 liter, that 2 large glasses of water, I then the night before I've already prepared my electrolytes and put it in the fridge, so it saves me doing it in the morning. 1.5 liter stainless steel bottle that I have, obviously not dealing with plastics here, ladies and gents, you know me. Don't want to be putting microplastics in your body if you can help it. And what I do is I mix that with 1.0 liter of water, electrolytes. I'm not going to shout the company out right now, but electrolytes, creatine, and citrulline if I'm training, right? But if I'm not training, I take out the citrulline. I just use that more for getting more energy and feeling stronger while I'm training, because what that does is it kind of vasodilates your blood vessels, citrulline. And it's also really good from a health standpoint as well. It can flush out toxins, and it's been proven in research to be beneficial for performance and recovery, right? Citrulline. But I just use that on my training days. So that's what I'll mix in there. On non-training days, it'll just be my electrolytes and my creatine mixed in there. Boom. I'll drink that whilst I'm training, or whilst I'm on my way to the park to do my bands, which I do once a week, or when I'm on my way to the beach to do my little outdoor 10, 15-minute workout that I do in between my full body workouts. Not going to go too much into the training stuff today, but that's what I'll have after my 1 liter. I've got that 1.5 liter of water. Now, electrolytes or even just salt, that's the main benefits. If you can just add like, a gram of salt to your water in the morning, that's going to help you actually get hydrated and get, to get the water into the tissues, right? It's one thing drinking water, but you have to actually make sure you're getting the water, you're getting the hydration into the tissues and cells. And sodium, salt, is essential for that, right? So definitely do that if you haven't, or add electrolytes to that. And then what I'll do if I'm training, the first thing I'll do then after doing that, I get outside. I try and get some daylight. I don't stand there looking into the sun and, the stuff that Huberman talked about, which is great, but I don't sit there gazing into the sun. No, I get out and I move straight away. So I'm either walking to the gym, which is only 5-10 minutes away. And what I started doing 2 weeks ago, instead of going straight to the coffee shop and getting a double espresso, I now have gone back to what works better for me, is training without caffeine. I actually have more stamina, but more importantly, I've been waiting. I'm getting back to what I used to do for like a year before I stopped doing it. Over the last 2 weeks, I've been consistent. I wait around about 90 minutes until I have my first coffee. So I'll walk to the gym, get straight to the gym, drink my electrolytes, my 1.5 liter of water. So by the time I've left the gym, I've already drank 2.5 liters of water, right? And then I'll have my coffee after training, or what I'll do is I'll go do my little workout in nature on the days in between training, or go to the beach, do a quick workout, go for a swim. And I do my best now to wait 90 minutes at least until I have that first coffee. Why? Performance, right? Research shows that actually it reduces the afternoon crash. It can give you more, because what happens in the morning, right? Remember, your adrenal system is working hard. Your cortisol levels are already high. You've got that natural energy. And that's why if you get daylight, you're going to spike the cortisol levels naturally, and it's going to give you that drive and that burst of energy when you get daylight. But there's loads of other stuff going on with daylight, which I'm not going to go into. It's like the most important thing for sleep as well, by the way, getting daylight in the morning. If you can get, like, if the sun's out, 5 minutes, that's all you need, 5 to 10 minutes minimum. If it's cloudy, 10 to 20 minutes, right? As soon as you can in the morning. Again, that spikes cortisol. And what it also does is it's going to raise your melatonin levels in the evening when you need it, because melatonin is going to help with sleep, right? So there's all these little hacks. So now I've started having the coffee after training. I get way more sustained energy. I don't get an afternoon crash. I feel way better when I have that coffee after training. I just get this, my mood's better. Everything's better, right? Because I'm not interfering with my body's signals by having caffeine straight away, right? I'm hydrating first. I'm letting my body take care of its usual processes, spiking the stress hormones, cortisol, and everything else. Then I'm doing that afterwards, right? So that's what I'll do to start with. And then I'll just work normally. So I'll just work for a few hours in the morning fasted. I feel better fasted. And when I eat, it interrupts my productivity. Right now, I'm not going to say that's ideal for everyone, because a lot of people, you just need to eat straight after training, or you need to eat 3 meals a day, right? Because a lot of people, they're not really built to fast, if I'm honest, from what I've seen. If it works for you, great, but that works for me. So the first meal, then it'll vary. But at the moment, I've been averaging 2 meals a day, right? So I was having like more 3 meals a day for a good few months, actually, which I haven't done for a while. But right now, my first meal will be, for example, after this podcast, I'll eat, that'll be like 20 past 11 in the morning. Normally, I would eat a bit later than that, though. It's only because I got client calls this morning from midday, or from midday, should I say. I'm going to eat before that. I would normally eat in the afternoon. So I'll normally eat around about midday to 1 p.m. on average, right? And that first meal is going to be, it's going to be my beef. Obviously, the only meat, beef's the only meat I eat, right? So I just eat ground beef. I eat rump steak, all grass-fed and grass-finished, and I eat beef liver and chicken liver as my meat sources. So my first meal will be either steak or beef mince. It'll be sometimes eggs, but like I said before, egg whites mess with my stomach, but I love them so much that about 2-3 times a week, I'll have the whole eggs. But on the other 4 or 5 days, I'm just having the egg yolks. I'd say about 5 days a week, I'll have eggs, either whole eggs or egg yolks. But normally it'll be steak. Let's say, so it'll be like around about 750 grams, give or take, or 800 grams of steak or beef mince. It'll be about either 3 whole eggs, or it'll be like 6 egg yolks. And then a lot of times, a few days a week, I'll add avocado as well. And I'll sometimes, maybe a few times a week, I'll have the dark chocolate after that as well, but I've cut that down lately. And that's it. And then I'll fry that in ghee oil, right? So that's, yes, it's pretty calorie dense, that meal, right? Ghee oil, avocado, steak, eggs. You're looking at 1,500 calories, basically, give or take, sometimes even more than that. And that is very low carbohydrates. Obviously, avocado is 80% fat, right? So there's hardly any carbohydrates in avocado, and it'll give me sustained energy then, right? So look at protein and fats, generally going to have more dopamine, right? More sustained energy. This works for me anyway. Don't get me wrong. Some people do better having carbohydrates earlier in the day. I'm not saying everyone should do this. Particularly women tend to do better having more carbohydrates earlier in the day, especially women who train. But all in all, there's a lot of variance from person to person. So I'll do that. Dopamine, energy, sustained energy. Then after that, I always go for a walk after my 2 meals, right? So always go for a walk, because that's one of the most important things you can do. One of the best things you can do for digestion and balancing out your blood sugar levels and energy as well. If I eat a big meal like that and I just sit down, I'm going to feel tired, right? So I'll go for a walk. That probably looks like about 15 to 30 minutes. And then I will crack on with my day and I'll have sustained energy then, right? So that's meal one, generally protein and fats, right? And then what I'll do then in the daytime, I'm obviously working in the afternoon then as usual. But what I would like to say on this as well, a recent study came out, carb time. And now they do say to replenish your glycogen levels, right? After training, it can be beneficial, especially after strength training, because you're more insulin sensitive, to replenish your glycogen levels with carbohydrates within 3 hours. Now, we've always known this, right? But the way I look at it is, as long as you replenish, you don't, by the way, we all know we don't need carbohydrates. We can live without them, right? Yeah, great. Let's not go down what we can live without. I'm always talking about how you can thrive. Most people do better with some carbohydrates. Let's just say it how it is. But I always just have, I'll come to that now, but I have my carbohydrates in the evening. So I backload my carbohydrates. That's more just for energy, because if I have carbs in the daytime, if I had potatoes or something, it's okay. But even that, I find I just haven't got as much energy, right? So I'm gonna spike my blood sugar levels a bit more. And what it does as well is it kind of stimulates my appetite a little bit more if I have carbohydrates in the daytime as well. Whereas if I just have my meat, my avocado, my ghee oil, my eggs, I'm full for like 5-6 hours till I have my next meal. But the recent study showed within 3 hours after training, replenishing your glycogen levels not only can put you in, I'm not even going to talk about the anabolic stuff because that's splitting hairs, but it can replenish, obviously, because when you go to the gym, you're going to drop your glycogen levels or maybe even deplete them in some cases. Then glycogen is carbohydrates. You replenish with carbohydrates within 3 hours after training. Not only does it help you replenish, but also it can be slightly anabolic as well doing that, but nothing's going to be more important than hitting protein and, sleep and stuff like that in terms of muscle building, right? And protein synthesis, having enough protein. But it actually helped people the next day. So people who train regular, like most days, and they train at quite a high intensity, whether that be strength training or high intensity cardio, they found their performance improved by quite a bit the next day when they had carbohydrates within 3 hours after training, right? So a little nugget there. Does that mean I'm going to do that? No, because for me, it's splitting hairs, right? It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't mean it's going to have a drastic difference to most people, but some people are going to do better. So it's a good thing you might want to play around with. For me, I'm all about performance, I'm all about productivity, and I'm all about doing what works for me, not just to look good, but to perform, right? So for me, I backload the carbohydrates in the evening. Before I get to that as well, right? Look, if you're looking to get leaner and stronger, I'm going to give you my shred blueprint for absolute free, right? And what I put in there is I put a training program in there. I mapped out exactly what you need to do in nutrition, some examples of meal plans, shopping list, everything's all mapped out. So you know exactly what to do. Also, I put in there a bonus like the ultimate ab training program, right? Which will help you develop your abs. Strength training, nutrition, ab training program, all in there. The shred blueprint. It's actually helped hundreds of people, get into great shape, and it's free. It's a free resource. Just click the link in the show notes, right? To get it. I've left it in the show notes. I'm going to put it into I'm going to put it at the top as well. I'm going to put it in the pinned comments. So you definitely want to be getting that, right? Don't miss out. Click that. So let's get to the evening meal. Basically evening meal, right? So I always cut food off at least 4 hours before bedtime. So the latest time I finish eating for the most part is 6 p.m. As you know, I use this ring to track my sleep and to track my recovery. It's great. And that has highlighted the fact that you can't get away. Like I have a big meal. I have big meals as well, right? I have 2 meals a day and eat on average at the moment, I'm eating like say 3,500 calories, right? I have big meals. So in the evening, I make sure I give it at least 4 hours before sleep. Now, if you can give it at least 3 hours, that's going to work for most people, right? But I like to give it at least 4 hours to play it safe. So I'll finish eating by 6 p.m. at the latest. I tend to go to sleep at about 10 p.m. And the evening meal is going to look like then carbohydrates included with the meat. So at the moment, I'm trying to be in a calorie deficit. And just so you know, I don't track calories and macros like 80, 90% of the time. 90% of the time, I don't track. I don't need to. I can stay in amazing shape without tracking calories and macros. But right now, I'm actually enjoying tracking, weirdly, right? Because I'm getting the awareness. I'm fine-tuning things. And I'm trying to be in a deficit, not because I really want to get shredded. I'm already in great shape, because I want to challenge myself, really. And there's nothing wrong with getting a bit leaner. That's a good side effect, right? But I'm just, and it's more a health standpoint. The main reason I'm doing this is to reset my gut as well, is to give my gut a bit of a break from being into maintenance, constantly surplus calories. And it's just good for the body to do, right? So I'm doing that now. So what that'll look like in the evening now, because I'm doing this over the last few weeks anyway, I've changed this a little bit. So in the evening, I'll have a small amount of meat. I'll probably have about 250 grams of beef mince normally. I'll have that with rice. Sometimes I've been throwing in some potatoes and or pumpkin and maybe a bit of olive oil on the rice, which makes it taste better. And if I'm trying to stay in a deficit, I'll do that, because it's what I talked about last time, right? I got more volume on my plate with the potatoes and pumpkin, which are relatively low calories, and it keeps me satiated on top of the protein. So I don't feel the desire to eat after having that meal. Whereas if I have a little bit of meat and rice, I'm eating that much quicker, number one, right? And number two, then I get more I don't get enough time to feel like I'm full. I feel like I want to eat more on top of that. I want to enjoy some more food, because it's like I eat it so quick. And I really enjoy my food, I'm not going to lie. So that's what I'm doing right now. It's going to be, potatoes, a bit of rice, a little bit of meat, and then olive oil, right? And that's sometimes it. About 50% of the time, I'm good. But sometimes it'll be a little bit of meat, just a small amount of meat in the evening, right? Because remember, with meat and sleep, it costs your body, it's harder to digest meat, and it heats up your core temperature more, right? It's, red meat in particular can take up to 4 hours, right, to digest properly. So I'm at a little bit of meat and mainly carbohydrates, right? So it might be meat and rice, 250 grams of meat, let's say rice, and then a little bit of yogurt. So I'll have this, yogurt. This is proper, organic stuff, just literally whole milk and live ingredients. That's it, 2 ingredients. I'll have that, a small amount though, right? If I'm having a meal, I'll say a small amount. For me, it's a small amount. I'll probably have about 300 grams of mine. For most people, that's not a small amount. And I add whey protein to it only purely because I like the taste of this whey protein. There's no other reason. I don't need to have it. I'm just having it purely for taste. I've already hit my protein target at this point. And then I'll mix in some berries with that, some frozen blueberries. And sometimes I'll add a bit more fruit, like a banana as well. I'll add a banana to that most of the time, actually. And maybe even a little bit of honey. And that's it. Job done. Finito. So it's either, just to clarify, it's either going to be a little bit of meat, rice, potatoes, maybe a little bit of pumpkin or potatoes if I can be bothered prepping them, olive oil, done sometimes, right? Other times then it'll be, just meat and rice and then yogurt, whey protein and fruit, right? And then other times I'll scrap the meat altogether. And what I'll do if I'm doing this is I'll plan ahead of this. So I'll probably have like more like 800 to 900 grams of meat with that first meal at midday. And then I'll have literally just yogurt and fruits. And sometimes, maybe 20, 30% of the time, 20% of the time, I add a little peanut butter to that as well. But right now I've been doing that way less because when I do that, then I tend to eat more than I anticipate because I'm just having yogurt and fruits and I add some peanut butter to that. And I just tend to eat more than I plan on eating. So if I'm looking to stay lean, I'm trying to reduce the amount of Greek yogurt I have. Like last week, I just had it on the weekend. So if I can, I'm aiming to do that, a lot of the times where I'll just have the Greek yogurt on the weekends with the fruits. And then sometimes, this has been happening very rarely recently, but let's just say a couple of times a month, I'll even have on the weekends, I'll have as my evening meal, I'll just literally have protein pancakes, which we make with Greek yogurt and add a little bit of peanut butter as a treat, right? And melt in a bit of dark chocolate to that as well. Epic. We just use buckwheat flour or almond, sorry, not flour, buckwheat, whatever it's called. I think it is flour, but it's natural stuff that was not processed garbage. It's just one ingredient, or almond meal. Buckwheat, flour or almond meal. Then we'll just add some eggs. We'll blend this up. We'll add like a few eggs, a whole banana. We'll fry that in coconut oil because we find it just tastes better and it doesn't stick to the pan as much. And I think that's pretty much it, the ingredients. And then we'll just add some toppings to the end and we'll melt the dark chocolate in afterwards. Great. I'll do that as a treat, right? And then obviously I'll walk after that meal as well then, right? And I'll have dark chocolate as well. Sometimes with that first meal, it's 90% or even 100% sometimes, right? I don't have dark chocolate in the evenings normally because it's got caffeine in it. Don't forget, it acts as a stimulant, right? And it's got 3-O-brine in it, or whatever it's called, which acts like caffeine, right? So don't want to risk that in the evenings, of course. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it, really. Sometimes if I'm really hungry, I'll throw in a third meal, but I'll just have some yogurt and whey protein, let's say at like 10 or 11 if I'm really, really hungry. But for the most part now, it's just 2 meals a day. And what I find when I'm having those 2 meals is it's harder to overeat. It's easier to stay in a deficit for me personally, because if I'm adding in that third meal, that means I just got a bigger window of time to eat, right? So it's more likely I'm going to eat more when I do that. Just trying to think if I missed anything there. That's pretty much it in a nutshell, ladies and gents. Pretty straightforward. So go for a longer walk in the evenings then, balance the blood sugar levels out. It looks like more like a 30-minute walk right now and sometimes 40 minutes. And then I'll do some grounding as well. Sometimes even in the evenings, go to the park barefooted, walk in the park. I do grounding most days, but that's kind of another conversation. But this really helps for mental health, helps me get calmer, being out in nature, feet on the ground. Ideally, if you can do the grounding on the beach, I have the luxury of doing that. It's even better. I think it's negatively charged ions with the sand. So it actually regenerates your body. And it can even help with gut health as well when you're grounding on the earth, for example, because obviously bacteria gets in through the skin, right? And into your body. So that can help. So I always make sure these things are just non-negotiable, these nature things. And I'll sometimes do that in the evening to just digest my food and hit 2 birds with 1 stone, right? Grounding, nature, and, burning calories. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So yes, low carbs in the daytime, load up my carbs in the evenings. Current macros, I'm probably averaging around 200 grams of carbs a day, mainly coming from rice, sometimes a little bit of potato and fruits, primarily, sometimes dark chocolate, right? If you want to add that in there. And I'm averaging about 250 grams of protein a day, which is about, 1.25 grams per pound of body weight on average for me, really. And then fats are looking like around about 40 to 45% of my total calories. I don't know how much in grams I'm averaging, probably about 100 and quite a lot, probably about 150, 160. But that's the key thing. When it comes to dropping fat, what I'm looking at now is I'm trying to reduce added fats. It's the fastest and easiest way to drop fat. Everyone in the carnivore and keto space, they're just like, just eat keto. It works for me. But in reality, if you want to get to the next level, sometimes if you're happy with where you are and you're making amazing progress, you're continuously leveling up with your physique and your goals and stuff. But a lot of people end up plateauing, right? You can't just carnivore your way to success, ladies and gents. It doesn't work like that. You can't just keto your way to the shape of your life. It doesn't work like that, right? You've got to sometimes throw a curveball. Sometimes carbohydrates going to help with metabolism as well, like I mentioned before, thyroid, performance in the gym, even sleep sometimes. Because what you got to look at is when it comes to performance as well. In the daytime, I'm looking at like dopamine mainly. And even then, when I'm having my carb hit, I'm generally going to get more of a release then of serotonin, right? It's going to calm me down in the evenings, right? Which can help with sleep. And I do that by bringing in carbohydrates. But look, having more than 30% of your calories coming from fat generally, there's no proven benefits from that, really. It's like protein as well. More than 1.5 grams per pound of body weight, not really going to get much benefit from doing that. So a lot of people will continuously eating keto and carbs. If it's working for you, kind of, if it's working for you, great. And if you've got like autoimmune diseases and stuff or issues and this works for you, great. But for most people, when it comes to thriving, having carbohydrates are going to be beneficial. That's why, if you're getting, say, 30, let's say 30 to 40% of your calories from protein, 30% from fats. I'm having more than that. As I say, I'm having 40% because I like eating fats, right? But I know if I really wanted to get shredded, like for a bodybuilding comp or next level, I need to bring that fat down to about 30% and then keep the rest carbohydrates, because that's going to help me with performance, energy. It's going to help my, muscles look fuller as I get leaner as well, as a side effect of that with the carbs. So more than 30% of your total calories generally is not going to have a great deal of benefit, really. And that's what the research shows, right? So when it comes to fats. So we've got to look at these things, right? Fine tuning for a lot of people. I want to wrap this up with something I learned from the weekend. Speaking of carbs and, UPF, I always talk about ultra processed foods. I slipped up on the weekend, ladies and gents, and I want to share this with you. It was my girlfriend's birthday, and this is the most amount of ultra processed foods I've eaten in a long time, right? And it wasn't a great deal, right, in comparison to most. But what we did, right, we went for a lovely tomahawk steak, epic, 1.5 kilo, unbelievable. Went to a really nice fine dining restaurant here, right? And I really drink alcohol as well, right? Alcohol, I'll drink on average, probably like probably every 2 months on average. Over the year, I'll have a few drinks. So I wasn't planning on drinking. I hadn't drank for like 3 months, right? And basically I ended up having a couple of beers, right? Literally 2 pints of beer. And then that kind of like lowers your inhibitions a little bit, doesn't it? Then we went for Yochi, right? Which is like frozen yogurt. I know it's UPF, it's frozen yogurt, but it's UPF. They pose it to be healthy, but it's not. And then it's adding the fruit and stuff, and then adding a bit of peanut butter, which is not too bad, right? But then my girlfriend was like, I'm going to have some granola. And I was like, fuck it, I'll have some granola. Then she was like, I'm going to have a little bit of this brownie and this cookie dough, which I never do, by the way, right? I thought, man, it's been a while. I'm going to do it, right? We ended up having 2 of these yogurts, right? That's greedy, right? We still have those old behaviors that we can kind of battle with. I didn't see anyone else going up for seconds, but we did. And there we go. So I ate more than I planned. And how I pulled that back is very simple, right? The next day I went back to like maintenance calories, right? And the day after that, I felt more energy actually, because I had way more calories on the weekend, more sodium, more carbohydrates, and I just felt good. I must have because I've been in a deficit for a while, so I rebooted my metabolism. That wasn't the plan though. Felt great in the gym on Monday morning, by the way. It felt awesome. But then I just went back into a deficit on Monday and just continue with my usual stuff. Went back to Whole Foods and just bounced back, continue as normal the next day. What people do is they try and over-restrict when they screw up, and they try and do extreme things, going to go and do a bunch of cardio and cut back my calories. And what you do is you set yourself up to fail by doing that, because it's too extreme. You put yourself into a big deficit, loads of stress on the body. That can then impact sleep because you've gone from one extreme to another, gut health, all those kind of things. And that's it. You just got to not beat yourself up and bounce back, right? Simple as that. And I tracked it all as well, right? I'm in my tracking bag right now. Been tracking for this is my 5th week of tracking. I don't need to do this. I can still say I'm in fantastic shape. But that kind of highlighted how much I ate as well, right? Which made me be more aware of it. So then I knew what I could do the next day. So look, I'm just going to wrap this up, ladies and gents. On average, I'm having 2 meals. Oh, that's what I did as well yesterday, right? I feel my body's need to have saunas and sweat. So I went for a sauna, and I've been putting off saunas. Really good to sweat out heavy metals, which even if you're dialed like me and you've got a proper water filter, heavy metals sneak into our bloodstream, into our body, one way or another, right? Microplastics are everywhere, right? I avoid them as much as possible, but I haven't had saunas for a while. And I'm just like, man, I got to start having saunas again. So I'm holding myself accountable here to have at least 2 saunas a week. So yesterday, my energy was off yesterday, Tuesday here, right? And what I did is I was just like, man, I need a sauna. My body was just telling me I needed to sweat. So yesterday I went for a sauna, and I just had 1 meal yesterday, right? Just 1 meal. And it was from the weekend and stuff. I wanted to just reset. So the 1 meal a day can be good for a reset. And I could probably do that for a week now. I'd be totally fine. But I'm not going to do it because it's hard for me to get enough food in, right, through 1 meal. So yesterday I had 1 meal, felt great, had a good sleep last night, cut that meal off by 5 p.m., was in a big deficit, had a sauna, felt amazing, right? So every now and then I'll do the 1 meal a day as a reset to just give my gut a rest. and let my body reset. So I'll probably start throwing in one meal a day a bit more regular now as I bring in saunas and stuff. And it kind of can work well as a reset. But most people have just got no place in having one meal a day because you haven't covered the big rocks, like eating 90% whole foods, not overeating on weekends. I know I did that last weekend, but that was a one-off. And really being consistent and getting the results that you want, hitting protein consistently. You're not doing those things, getting good sleep, and then you're going to think, oh, one meal a day to lose fat. That's not the answer. That can set you up for actually failure, because then what happens is you're depriving your body, right? You're taking away food. You're trying to restrict again, right? So you got to weigh these things up, ladies and gents, right? So look, I'm just going to wrap it up here. One more chance, Shred Blueprint. It's yours. All you got to do is click the link in the show notes to get it. You'll get a ton of value from it, right? You'll lose fat. If you want to lose fat, build muscle, and you want to improve your relationship with food, you want to know what to eat, you want to get a proper training program, which is actually going to get you bang for your buck, right? It's worked and it's helped loads of people. And you want to shred, summer's coming, just click the link and it's yours, right? Click the link in the show notes. I'll add it I'll put it in the pinned comments at the top as well, right after this. All right, stay tuned for the next one. Oh, like and comment. I'd love to know your feedback. Like, comment beneath if you've got any feedback or any questions. Cheers.